Hey guys, Mike from Nerd Problems Gaming here, and welcome to Nerd Problems Gaming, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review of Octopath Traveler for Nintendo Switch. Is it worth the hype? So stay tuned. So basically, there's definitely a lot of appeal with this game. One thing that really definitely stands out is that you basically have 8 different characters that you can choose from. And what's awesome is that when you start the game, basically you can choose one of 8 that you want to start with. Whoever's story basically reaches out to you most that you want to play as. And then from there, it's kind of choose your own adventure, right? So you can go along really whatever path that you want, finding other characters, tackling the first main story mission, whatever route that you want to go, you have that option to do that. So that's very cool. One of the downsides is really throughout the story, there's not necessarily a ton of overlap between each different character's storyline. Now there is little different cutscenes, basically where they'll talk to each other depending on who is in your party and what situation you're going through. So that's kind of neat. So you can get those different varieties of conversations depending on who's in your party, but it's not really until the end of the game and really the final boss, so really one of the very obscure storyline aspects, that you can find some different tie-ins between all of the characters and different things like that. So I won't really tell you what happens or anything like that, but again, know that throughout the whole storyline, there's not really going to be much overlap until that very final optional quest that you might run into if you figure that out. I actually had to even look up how to find that quest, so it's kind of pretty difficult. It requires multiple quests, finishing them all, and then they kind of intertwine together. So it's a pretty cool thing though that you find. Now throughout this, which is really neat, because there is 8 different characters, that means there's also 8 different job classes, so it kind of has that Final Fantasy twist to it, which is really cool. So again, you can really customize your party very heavily. Each character is going to have their foundation kind of base class that doesn't really change depending on what character you are. You're kind of that class forever. But as you get additional job classes and even some different secret job classes, you can mix and match those as well based on whatever characters you want to have in your party. Now, while that is a cool feature, I found that there are certain characters that I really liked better than others, and I found that kind of almost made it where there were 4 characters or a few of them where I didn't really ever use. I found a specific strategy that I liked, and then I just kind of stuck to it, where I didn't find myself really exchanging party members a whole lot, and that actually led to situations where some of the characters were very overpowered and then others were very weak. And then come final battle, when you're using all of your characters, I found that my team was incredibly weak in some areas, and so then I basically had to go back and just sit and grind to level up. So if you're trying to get to really high levels, that can be a little bit difficult, or again, you might run into that aspect where you're not really even in your team, and some might be much more overpowered than others. But again, what's cool, like I said, you can mix and match different job classes as you want. Every character can be, any other one, which is neat. And then you just can't have basically 2 characters being the secondary job class at the same time. But what's neat with that too is that you can learn all the abilities for each job class within, and then there's also kind of bonus perks, or basically special skill sets that you can learn as well, that you acquire as you unlock different abilities throughout these different character job classes. And then what that means is that basically you can customize what these additional special powers you have are equipped. So that might be, regenerating SP, which is like your magic points, or you regenerate health every turn, or you evade things better, or you don't really get affected by status effects, right? So it's a pretty cool feature with that. That being said, another really neat aspect of this game is the battles. So if you've ever played Bravery Default, that series, it's kind of a similar aspect where you can actually boost yourself during the turn. So you get BP, or basically I think it's boost points. I'm not even sure, I might be wrong on that, but definitely let me know in the comments below if I messed that one up. But as you gain those throughout the battles, you can boost, so you can take basically like 4 turns in a row, depending on if it's attacking, or you might really power up your magic, or again, if you have your boost all the way up, you can, if you've unlocked it, you have like kind of an ultimate ability for each different job class that you have. So that's definitely a really cool aspect to the game. Another thing that I really like as well throughout the battles is that every single enemy is going to have basically weak points. And so when you start off a battle, you basically will unlock one of those weak points that you can actually see. But what happens is that the only way to unlock other ones is actually try different things on them, and then you might happen to discover a weakness. Now, there is a character class that has an analyze ability where you can basically see one additional weak point of the bosses or of the monsters, but then also every time that you encounter a monster for a second time, it's going to unlock an additional weakness if you haven't discovered it yet. And so that creates some pretty cool dynamics in the battle, because what happens is each monster is also going to have basically a shield with a number on it, which is kind of like their breaking point. So if you hit them with a weakness up to that point, you're going to break them, and then they kind of lose their turns in like the turn gauge at the top of the screen as well. So this again can create some really cool dynamics where you might be almost dead, but then you break a monster and you get a bunch of turns in a row, or you specifically set up strategies where you're breaking the monster like the turn before their turn comes up again. And so that's another cool gameplay mechanic that I really enjoyed as well. Now, battles can get a little bit repetitive in the sense that, like I said, for me, I basically had my 4 main characters that I played with the whole time, and I had a set basically spells that I casted, you know, a specific abilities that I used every single time, and so that got a little bit repetitive, but I did find that the bosses were very tough. So even if you're really overpowered, you still have somewhat of a challenge. And then if you're going for the additional final end boss, that's crazy hard, right? But then also, even as you're unlocking the new classes of for your characters as well, your new job classes, or even the secret hidden job classes, those battles were incredibly difficult, and those were a lot of fun to be able to tackle and take those down. So that's one aspect that I really like. It actually poses a challenge, right? Even if you're grinding very high levels, get overpowered experience, even so, those battles can be challenging and difficult. Another aspect that I found that made me kind of lock into one team is that there's special treasures hidden around in the environment. Unless you have like a thief class, that's really the only way that you can unlock these special treasure chests. So in the beginning, I found I was going back and walking through the dungeon again, switching back to a thief, but eventually I just left them in the party the entire time because I didn't want to have to deal with going back to town every time I encountered one of these chests. So that was one kind of downside. I wish that was maybe like a skill set that you could learn from the thief, but I just found that that was a little frustrating early on in the game. Like I said, I mentioned it earlier, if there's certain classes or certain characters that you're really only using in their storyline, I find that when it comes to maybe the final boss or some of the bigger bosses, you might have a difficult time and find that these characters are very underleveled versus maybe some of the key ones that you use in your party all the time. Another cool aspect to this game is that each character has basically a unique ability that they can use outside of battle, like in town. So as you're talking to townspeople, you know, some of the options, like you can challenge them to kind of like a one-on-one duel. And so when you do that, you're going to knock them out. So maybe sometimes the character, an NPC, right, is standing in your way in front of a door, so you have to basically beat them up, knock them out to be able to pass. Or again, maybe there's a specific quest that you're doing or a part of the storyline where, you know, some thieves are causing trouble, or, you know, whatever the case might be, somebody's, you know, causing terror in the town, so you got to actually take them out. You challenge them, and then once you do that, it kind of progresses the story or progresses the quest. So that's kind of a cool feature where you really have to pay attention to what's going on, and then it gives you that ability. But you know, some other ones are neat. You can basically scrutinize people or inquire about them, like have a conversation, and you learn some kind of in-depth knowledge about these NPCs, and sometimes they, you know, have secret information, or they have secret items that you can take from them, or you find a hidden item through doing this. So that's kind of a cool thing. So each person has really their own special unique ability. You know, the thief can steal from people. The merchant can actually buy high quality items from them. So it's a neat twist that you have where you can actually, it matters, right? Who's in your party and who you're actually talking to, and basically how you can interact with the NPCs and the other characters in the environment. So I definitely like that aspect of the game as well. Something pretty unique though is the graphics. So if you've seen gameplay of this game, or again, you've played it all, it's basically almost like Super Nintendo graphics wise, but it's kind of neat also because really the backgrounds and how the design is laid out, like the water looks real, for example, you know, and there's a lot of attention to detail in kind of the background things and other aspects that are going on while still maintaining that Super Nintendo-esque graphics. So if you like kind of more traditional RPGs mixed with kind of new age turn-based RPGs, this is a great fit. It's a great fun game to play. Gameplay time, you're probably going to be looking around, you know, if you're breezing through everything, yeah, maybe 40-50 hours. But if you're trying to get, you know, all the different quests, unlock the secret classes, everything like that, you're probably looking at closer to 100 or even 150 hours to put into this game. So there's a lot of bang for your buck with this, especially if you're taking on all the different side quests and different things like that. But yeah, guys, definitely let me know in the comments what you think about this game. Do you like Octopath Traveler? Is there aspects you don't like? Did you find it sometimes getting repetitive like I did a little bit? But I definitely enjoyed this game. I recommend picking it up. It's definitely one of my favorite RPGs on the Switch right now, so definitely go ahead and pick that up if you haven't. I'll put a link in the description below where you can, you know, pick up a copy as well. But again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe and turn on that bell notification to get more updates on new reviews and nerd stuff that you might be into. And then also, if you haven't done so, if you want to help us get out more content faster, help support the channel, consider becoming a patron of ours over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. Again, that's nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. You can actually help out the channel, help us pick videos and more. And then if you'd like to plug into some of our Let's Plays and live streams as well, you can follow us over on Twitch over at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But again, guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you more soon.